want to talk to you about what I've learned from playing slash watching YouTube videos in regards to aiming systems. So the traditional aiming system, the first one you'll hear about, of course, is the ghost ball, and which is that you know there's the contact point between here and the pocket, and then so if we pretend that the cue ball is there, so in other words, we're replacing this with this. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's a good way to understand pool, but it's almost impossible. You can't aim like that. Like once you are trying to do the difference between a 25-degree cut, a 20-degree cut, a 45-degree cut, just knowing that, oh, there's a ghost ball. Okay, that doesn't help you at all. That's not an aiming system. That's just basically a really introductory thing on how to play pool. So next thing that you're going to learn is half ball hit. And what that's referring to is from the perspective of center ball, cue ball shot, how much is the cue ball covered up, covering the object ball. So this is about 30 degrees. So this would be your typical, they say 30 degrees is a half ball hit. Then if you come over here, if you get a little bit thinner of a cut, then at some point it's a quarter ball hit. And then at some point it's an eighth ball hit. And then at some point you're just basically scraping the very edge of this ball with the very edge of that ball, which would actually be more of something like that. And that's what, a 16th ball hit? I don't even know. And then of course the obvious one, 3/4 ball hit would be something like that, and then straight in is a full ball hit. And again, I find that this is it's not a helpful way of telling you how to aim. It's not an aiming system. It's another way of saying hit it in the right spot. Okay, so getting into actual aiming systems. So the ones I think that make the most sense, using your ferrel or the tip of your cue. So there's my, you can see right through it. Look at that. So this is the system that Shane Van Boning uses. Also a person that explains it really well on YouTube's Anthony Beeler. Go ahead and search him up, and he explains it way more in depth than me. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is because I find his and Shane's way of explaining it a little too in depth. I'm never going to be as good as those guys, and I don't know that I'm ever going to require the amount of precision that they require. They're playing on 9-foot tables. They need to hit the shot perfect. They're trying to go to a certain part of the pocket on a 4¼ inch pocket, and they're trying to aim to the left or right of it on a 9-foot table. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to have some fun. If I play on a 9-foot table, I'm just trying to pocket it. There's basically 7 spots. So picture the middle of the ferrule. That's just, your middle. And then there's a couple lines here, and then there's the edge of the ferrule. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the reason that that's a lot more helpful is because if you've ever shot a gun, especially if you've ever shot a rifle, you understand this concept. You understand the concept that it's not just, oh, here's a half ball. Okay, so if this is a half ball hit, okay, well, that's good to know, but, where am I aiming? Where exactly am I aiming it if it's a half ball hit? And they say, oh, well, you're aiming it in the middle of your tip. Okay, well, to me, that's not an aiming point. Like, I used to shoot rifles a little bit. I'm not a marksman or anything, but the aiming point that you use on a rifle or even a pistol is a tiny little, thing that's like a 16th, 32nd of an inch. And it's like that for a reason, because you need to have precision. And so to just say, oh, it's the middle of it. In the middle of it, it's a half ball, you shoot in the middle. Okay, so what I have is a hybrid system. It's a hybrid of what Anthony Beeler and Shane teach. The edge of the ferrule the inside edge, so on the angle, the inside, this would be the light, the left side of it, it's gonna be to this exact spot we were talking about earlier, what they teach you with the ghost ball. So right in the middle of my tip here, right in the middle of it, right there, that's it. That's the spot. Right there, right in the middle of it. So visualize that spot. Come over here. And so this is a half ball hit. And so what they would tell you is that what you want to do is you want to aim in the middle of your tip. I'm telling you, you don't have to do that. Just learn to, in your brain, that it's the edge. And the reason it's so much better is because that's a perfectly precise line. The edge of this tip, you could picture it being a millimeter thick. And I'm telling you, whether it's technically correct or not, it doesn't matter. If you train your brain using the edge of your ferrule, it'll adjust for it. And it might sound counterintuitive, but believe me, it works. So let me give you an example. I'll show you this. So if I line the balls up like this, right, and then this is the same stupid thing that they always teach you, is that, well, let's just put it on the rail. So what you want to do is you want to make contact with the ball and the rail at the same time. And then, or, maybe, even slightly before it. With the edge of this ball lined up with that ball. Okay. And of course that's correct, but that's not telling me what to aim at. I'm not aiming at anything. What I want is a precise aiming point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim the exact spot right in the middle of this tip, the very, very middle. You walk over here, you look at that spot. Okay, come over here. What I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you aim the inside, in this case, it's the left. If the angle was opposite, it would be, the right. The inside of the ferrule to that exact point. And you might not think it works. I want you to try it. It works. It works perfectly. And the more you do it, the more you'll train your brain that that's the spot that you use, and it will adjust everything perfectly. Now, the caveat to that is going to be what I was talking to you earlier about. So something a little less than super duper thin. So let's say whatever amount of degrees this is. I'm going to have you do the exact same thing, except for instead of aiming at that contact point, I'm just going to have you do the left of the ferrule, and I'm just going to have you hit it to the edge of the ball. So the edge meaning literally the edge. Again, it's counterintuitive. Geometry would tell you that doesn't work. And I think the reason that this works, and I know it works, I'll show you guys some examples, but I think the reason that this works is because your brain has a hard time interpreting spheres into flat geometrical planes, like what you think abstractly when you learn geometry. And the spheres makes it more difficult. But what I've described, even though it might not technically be correct if you were to do it on a flat geometric plane, it works because your brain does all the math for you automatically. And with practice, just using the inside edge of your ferrule, aiming on thin cut shots, aiming at the very edge of the ball here, anywhere else, aiming at the contact point, it's good enough. All right, so I got this set up with about a 30-degree half ball cut shot. So if I look at it, about half the ball's covering it to where we're going. For illustrative purposes, I've put this on the spot with the 9. I don't know if you can really see it, but the 9 going directly there. And so what I'm doing is I'm aiming right at the contact point that the ghost ball would be touching, which is the 9, right in the middle of the 9. And I'm going to aim it with the, make sure I'm looking at the the left side of my ferrule. And some center ball. Just using a center ball hit. And I'm aiming right at that 9, right at that contact point. Yeah, and it cheated the pocket just a hair there. So let's try it again. I want me and you to know something simple, something easy to use, something that works, and it's simple. You don't have to sit there and get out a protractor and do butterfly wings. So again, instead of a half ball hit, picturing the middle of this, lining this up with the half and the blah blah, what I'm doing is I'm hitting it right at the contact point. Oh, very, very left. Very, very left. That's it. Perfect. Perfect center of the pocket. And then let me show you the one other variation. The thinnest cut you could make, something like this, that's pretty obvious that you're just trying to touch the edge of this ball with the edge of that ball. Yeah, something like this. This is about as thin a cut as you would really try. And you're just kind of just touching one edge to the other. And, I mean, that's pretty obvious. That's not something you really need to teach anything about. I'm talking about something, and again, I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. I don't ever really actually set these up like this. But this 9 goes right there. So not something quite that thin, but something more like this, right? This is more of your typical kind of thin shot you would encounter. So in this case, I'm not aiming the left edge of it to that contact point. I'm just aiming it to the edge of the ball. That's it. Right there. From this perspective, it is the middle of the ball from here, again, from where I'm aiming, and I'm just doing everything center ball, it's right there. That's it. Super simple, guys. Look at the ball. Perfect, center pocket. So that's it. You know, so I showed you the theory, I showed you the practice. Check it out. Tell me what you think. Have a good one. Where's the button?